Hello and welcome to the Joe Ligato Show. I'm your host, Dr. Joe Ligato, and today we're going to be talking about how the Saudi Crown Prince has been taking steps to decouple from the United States and some of his somewhat recent commentary on the matter. So, Saudi Crown Prince threatened major economic pain on United States amid oil feud. This was from the Washington Post. The last fall, President Biden vowed to impose consequences on Saudi Arabia for its decision to slash oil production amid high energy prices and fast approaching elections in the United States. So he needs to lower oil prices in order to help his election chances. In public, the Saudi government defended its actions politely via diplomatic statements, but in private, Crown Prince MBS, Mohammed bin Salman, threatened to fundamentally alter the decades old US Saudi relationship and impose significant economic costs on the United States if it retaliated against the oil cuts, according to a classified document obtained by the Washington Post. So, something to think about here is Nixon is often derided as one of the worst leaders the United States ever had, but actually, when the United States really showed that it couldn't back up its currency with the gold standard, Nixon was the person who went and helped find an alternative standard to back the United States dollar with, and that was the petrodollar. So he helped make the petrodollar arise. And so that alliance has been in existence for 50-ish years, really. And it's kept the United States in the superpower status that it's maintained. There was actually a point there in, I'd probably say, the 70s and 80s where it might actually look like the United States would collapse before the Soviet Union, and that's because the United States currency wasn't backed up by gold anymore. People couldn't change gold for the US dollar. This was before my time, because I'm not an oldie. But if I remember correctly, it was the French who tried to cash in, get some gold for their US dollars, and the United States just didn't. They couldn't pay the bills, and so the United States had to come up with something else, the petrodollar, and that's what we've been living with ever since. So having Saudi Arabia go against that, not like that anymore, that's a huge detriment to the United States. So the Crown Prince claimed he will not deal with the U.S. administration anymore, promising major economic consequences for Washington. So that's a big deal. Saying outright not dealing with the U.S. administration anymore, when it's likely that President Biden is going to be the president for another term. Having the country that is backing up the oil as the United States dollar's way of backing its currency, that's a huge deal. It's not saying that I'm not dealing with them in this regard or I want to go back to negotiations. No, this leader is so fed up with the United States right now that he's just like, you know what, I'm done. I'm throwing in the towel here. So 8 months later, Biden has yet to impose consequences on the Arab country, and Mohammed has continued to engage with top U.S. officials as he did with Secretary of State Antony Blinken in the seaside Saudi city of Jeddah this week. Okay, so yeah, obviously Saudi Arabia is an important player in the region. Yeah, MBS is very young. It says 37 here. De facto ruler after his father King Salman appointed him to be prime minister in 2022. The Biden causing more problems with key strategic allies. I mean, whether you love or hate Saudi Arabia, they're absolutely important for United States hegemony to continue to exist. So having them be in direct conflict with the United States is a huge deal. So Biden pledged to make Saudi Arabia a pariah as a presidential candidate, scarcely communicates with the Crown Prince, but the president's top aides have gradually rebuilt ties with him, hoping the two nations can work together on pressing issues, including a long-sought peace deal in Yemen, a sustained ceasefire in Sudan, counterterrorism challenges, and continued disagreement over the supply of oil. Okay, so interesting things here. So the peace deal is actually looking like it's going to happen, brokered by China, and it's going to be between the Iranians and the Saudis, and that would lead to a peace deal in Yemen. Counterterrorism challenges and counter piracy challenges. It looks like Iran, United Arab Emirates, Oman, and Saudi Arabia are looking to form a joint navy to handle counterterrorism operations to make sure the Persian Gulf is safe. Just multiple things are happening. It's just not involving the United States anymore. The United States used to have to be involved in absolutely everything, and we're seeing that that's just simply not the case. All right, Khashoggi, the Khashoggi murder. I think we're to the point where we understand that the United States has to kind of look that over, even if they're upset about it, because and who knows if they're even actually upset about it, honestly. But they have to look it over because the United States needs Saudi Arabia more than Saudi Arabia needs the United States right now, which is a strange state of affair. The United States is just completely on the back foot. And if you had asked me like a decade ago, I would say it would take 2 or 3 decades for that to happen. But the United States has been declining far more rapidly than I really think anyone could have anticipated. Even Russian President Vladimir Putin was very surprised by just how strong Russia was when the United States implemented so many sanction packages against it, and the fact that Russia was stronger than the United States in terms of handling the sanctions. Like normally, the person being sanctioned is the one who's facing difficulty. The nation is facing difficulty, but in this case, the people putting on the sanctions are the ones actually facing difficulties. It's just interesting. Anthony Blinken, he is of Jewish descent, and here you see him supposed to be working for United States interests, and Blinken is apparently talking about U.S. efforts to broker normalization between Israel and Saudi Arabia. I don't understand exactly why Israel is such an important is so important to the United States that they would put Israel's interests above the United States' interests, but you see many state officials doing that. Just to be completely blunt here, I don't think people who have some type of ethnic interest in something should be a state official representing that interest. So I am of Italian, Greek, and Jewish descent, and there's no way that you should make me like the ambassador to Italy, Greece, or Israel, because it's like, well, obviously there's a conflict of interest there. You need to have people who are more impartial, especially when you have a nation like the United States that is a melting pot of various different groups. You have to make sure that the people you put in power don't have dual loyalties. I mean, even if they've proven themselves directly, you have to take extra steps anyways, just because that's the cautious thing to do in these scenarios. But nope, you see a lot of people who are of Jewish descent directly working in terms of foreign policy circles and in terms of domestic circles for the benefit of Israel, and it's not something that should be acceptable, but for some reason it's allowed in that specific case, but no other cases really. You wouldn't see that with Irish interest, Italian interest, Greek interest, but this one specific case is apparently allowed for some reason I can't fully fathom. Okay, so Saudi Arabia's foreign minister noted that while Riyadh would welcome U.S. support in building its civilian nuclear program, there are others that are bidding, so places like Russia and China. That's a subtle reminder that the kingdom could deepen its cooperation with China on the initiative. On human rights, he struck a defiant note saying Saudi leaders don't respond to pressure. So again, this is a matter of, is Saudi Arabia a sovereign nation that's able to make its own decisions? And the United States says no. China says, sure, we just want to make trade deals. And Saudi Arabia is like, well, actually, we like the way that China is talking to us a lot better than the way the United States is talking to us. Okay. Biden administration decided to figure out how to work with MBS, even if Biden and he still do not talk to each other. So essentially, what ended up happening was because Biden is burning bridges with so many world leaders that his administration is having to go behind his back and do things to foster cooperation with these nations, even if the nations don't like the president directly, which really does beg the question of how much power and who is really in charge. Like how much power does the United States president have, and who is really in charge if it's not the president? Because the president apparently would do other things other than what the United States is currently doing in regards to places like Saudi Arabia. So some major questions that need to be answered and have never been answered. In recent months, Riyadh has been on a diplomatic tear. So Riyadh, that's the diplomatic center of Saudi Arabia. Think of it like talking about like the Pentagon or DC has been on a diplomatic tear here. That's essentially the equivalent. Winding down hostilities in Yemen, so restoring relations with arch nemesis Iran, inviting Syrian President Bashar al-Assad back into the Arab League after a decade-long ban, and ending its regional tiff with Qatar. I didn't know overly much about the regional tiff with Qatar ending, so I'm going to have to look into that, but that's an interesting development as well. These various Gulf states have been competing for influence, but you see that only benefits Israel and the United States, and so they're making amends with all their former competitors. I think China has served as a prime example of this, China and Russia really, where it's like they could be competing and just letting the United States reap the benefits of that competition, but instead they're working together. And so places like Qatar and Saudi Arabia are like, well, maybe we could work together. And then Iran and Saudi Arabia are like, well, maybe we could work together. Maybe we don't have to take the American stand of competing so that America can get all the benefit. Keeping us okay. Okay, this article is almost over. From December warned that Saudi Arabia planned to expand its transactional relationship with China by procuring drones, ballistic missiles, cruise missiles, and mass surveillance systems from Beijing. But U.S. officials say those warnings were exaggerated and did not come to fruition. So that's kind of embarrassing that United States doesn't have many benefits. One is its currency is backed by oil, but not anymore really. And two was its military strength. But between losing Vietnam, losing Afghanistan, losing Iraq, honestly, losing in Syria, other countries, which typically would be buying military equipment from the United States or choosing to buy military equipment from other countries, because the United States makes military equipment and uses military equipment, but they lose while using their military equipment. So that's not good marketing for their equipment. China is the world's second largest economy, it says here, and some different metrics would say that they're already first. China is the largest trading partner of Saudi Arabia, so naturally there's a lot of interaction there, and that cooperation is likely to grow. And this is Saudi Arabia's foreign minister talking, but we still have a robust security partnership with the U.S. That security partnership is refreshed on an almost daily basis. So Saudi Arabia has options. They don't have any reason that they have to continue to work with the United States. The United States, quite frankly, doesn't have many things to offer it at this point. United States can't really offer it military protection. After comparing notes with Iran, they've started to recognize that a lot of the things that they blamed on Iran were actually sabotages that the United States and Israel likely conducted instead. And so it's really hard to see what exactly is the benefit of working with the United States at this point. I'm scratching my head trying to figure it out. The United States is a destabilizing factor in that region. And so I don't think Saudi Arabia actually benefits from an alliance or any type of interaction with the United States. Really, breaking off ties has been a benefit to places like Russia, so it might even be a benefit to places like Saudi Arabia. Anyways, if you liked this video and you want to hear more from me, please like the actual video and subscribe to our channel for more content. We'll be coming back with further analysis of various news articles in the future. So thank you for watching, and I hope you have a good rest of your day. Bye.